Guys, UFC 276 is stacked. Step into the octagon with our show sponsor DraftKings, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Knockout, submission, or even judge's decision, no matter who wins the fight or how the fight ends, new customers can bet $5 on UFC 276 and get $100 in free bets no matter what. Looking for a big payday? Check out DraftKings Sportsbook newest UFC feature, Same Game Parlays. Combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, number of knockouts, and more with your shot at an even bigger payout. If Sportsbook is not available in your state, check out DraftKings Daily Fantasy, where they will have huge contests for this weekend's fight. New DraftKings customers, download the DraftKings app right now. Use the promo code Sonnen. Put down $5 on UFC 276 and you will get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's promo code Sonnen when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Francis and Fury, boy, I think these guys are winning. I really do. Now, guys, I always know it's going to be a big fight. I know it's going to be a big fight because I create something called a thumbnail. I put it on my YouTube page, and then not only am I audited, I'm publicly audited. All of you guys can see. How many of you clicked on something because I included Conor McGregor's name? How many of you clicked on something because I said Ngannou versus Fury? Will tell me to a perfect science. Not even a maybe. Like, there's people in analytics departments at the UFC. They're paid a whole bunch of money, and they take an algorithm, and they compare it with Google, and they look at these different... They've got this whole complex thing. You can do all of that, and they do come to very good conclusions, or you could simply go and look at my YouTube feed. Honestly, truly. 100% you'll know when people like an idea, and you'll know when they don't, and you'll know when they really like an idea. Fury and Ngannou. The world's worst fight promotion. And I can't quit talking about it. Truly. They will go out and do something that's so goofy. Now, you got to understand, these are monsters, right? These are two absolutely big, huge success. These are monsters that understand the business. Fury's made more money in boxing because he knows to wear a goofy outfit, say something clever, and serenade his wife at the end of the night. He's made more money in boxing than other people that have just as beautiful of records and just as many knockouts and have won the same championship that he has. Francis Ngannou is headlining pay-per-views and getting percent. I mean, these are smart guys. In all fairness, at least they're very successful. They seem to get it. These guys it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It gets announced by Francis Ngannou roughly 48 hours ago that he's going to be coming back and he'll be back in December. Fury sends something out about, you're going to go back to the UFC because you don't want this smoke. Francis responds to him, I do want the smoke. You don't want to do a real fight. One of them said, let's do a proper fight, to which Ngannou rightly said, what does proper fight mean? I appreciate that Francis has finally said that because these British guys keep talking about, let's do a proper fight. I'm with Francis. Define what that means. Is a proper fight like we sign contracts and we walk on there at an agreed upon time, or that we're actually going to fight each other, which would be much more reminiscent of the rules that are unified done in MMA. I'm curious. I love that Francis finally called him out on that, but then Francis told him he does want all of the smoke, and he included smoke emojis. Now, there's something that takes away from macho-ness. There's something that takes away from bravado in any fashion as soon as you include an emoji. And it doesn't matter what that emoji is. It could be a smiley face or a frown face. It could be a thumbs up or it could be a fist. As soon as you include the emoji, we're in a different realm. Can we all agree on that? Okay. I can't quit talking about these guys, though. As much as I hate the idea and as much as I hate the concept. Now, Dana White, once we're confronted with the fact that Francis says I'm going to be back in December, and these are just words. Nobody, particularly somebody in Francis's spot that's dealing with an injury as severe as you need to undergo a surgery, they don't actually know when they're going to be feeling good. Once they feel good, when are they feeling great? Once they feel great, when can they get into training? Like, you're having these moving conversations, but Francis just threw the words out, I'll be back around December, which good for Francis. It's created a whole conversation, which I think is very important when you're the champion of the world, that you never let that die down. If you're getting beat out in headlines when you're the champion of the world, you're losing. When Conor McGregor is beating you 4-1 and he's got no belt, no ranking anymore, at least in the top 10, no championship at all, and he's doing 4-1 headlines over you, you got to be more competitive. So it's a good idea that Francis came out and did something. Fine for whatever Fury's doing. I don't think Fury's doing his best work here because I don't know how serious Fury is about this. Fury appears to me to be enjoying some of the headlines, and I will tell you, fame and attention is a drug. 100%. When you walk away from your career and that drug known as fame and attention is taken from you, guys will do some very weird things. They really will. They'll do some very weird things, even a tweet. And then they will go refresh their page every 5 seconds for the next hour because that gave them a little bit of juice. And some of their tweets don't catch on and don't go as far as they want. You'll even see them delete it and try to send out a new one. They really get hungry for this attention. I feel as though Fury is somewhere lost in that, which is okay. Very normal, very common. I just don't know how serious he's being. As poor as this promotion is, I don't know that he cares. I think it's just purely to get a little bit of attention. Now, I only bring that to you because now Dana's asked about it. As soon as this heavyweight champion says, I'm going to come back, now Dana's asked about it. Dana says, as he was talking about Jon Jones, that John's going to be back soon, and Jon is either going to be in there with Stipe or Francis Ngannou. We're going to get that done. That sounds right to me. That sounds very in line with everything that we've ever been told from the day that Jon, through the 205-pound championship aside, said he's moving up to heavyweight. We have always been told that when he comes to heavyweight, when and if, that he will be the #1 contender. So that sounds right. Now, I will share, as weeks turn into months, and those months have turned into years, that deal in that statement starts to be one that, well, I think we might need to revisit this. But we're not at that point yet. Jon still is going to walk in. He's either going to go with Stipe or he's going to go with Francis. But those are very different matches. Those are the two matches that I want to see. Those are two of the biggest matches that our sport could make. My job is to put this in a thumbnail, find some kind of content, and get you guys to click on it. But I'm fully aware that if these other heavyweights that are out there carrying the heavy water, doing the heavy lifting, going through the training camps, getting on planes, flying planes, beating a scale, getting in there with a guy the next night, at some point they need to speak up and bring the reality to you, which is Jon Jones has never fought at this class, and Stipe's last fight he got stopped. It's very relevant. Those are the top guys. I get where we could make that fight. But as soon as heavyweights come out and they bring this to everybody's attention, that the guy in Stipe, the guy that you're going to put for your championship, whether it's an interim or not, got stopped in his last fight. The other guy that you're going to put in that match has never competed within the weight class. As a matter of fact, he hasn't competed with anybody in almost 2 years. Once you start doing that, you start poking holes in this boat of an idea that we're all floating down the river and everybody's accepting. All the fellow heavyweights have just stood back and are waiting for that fight to get on with it. None of them are calling for #1 contenderships. Ciryl Gane came the closest by saying the words, I would like an interim title fight. He had no idea with who that should be against, when it would be contested, why, where it was going to be. He had no follow-up to this very basic idea, but he at least said the words. That's more than anyone else in that division has done, and they're happy to stand back for a guy who has never done it at the weight class versus a guy who just got carried out. It's very relevant, even if that's the right. Do you guys get the point that I'm making? So Francis is then going to draw into one of those guys. Francis, your champion of the world, your unquestioned champion of the world, is going to draw into a guy who either just got knocked out or he's going to draw into a guy who's never done it in the weight class and is sat on the shelf for 2 years. As much as we all want to see the fight, it's the job of the fellow heavyweights. It's the job of the Curtis Blades. It's the job of the Tom Aspinall. It's the job of the Ciryl Gane. It's the job of the Tai Tuivasa to come out and tell their stories and explain to us why it's more compelling. But it would seem as though, by logic, which is the one criteria that we never go by in this sport, we're never going to use actual logic and actual facts. To hell with that. It would seem as though when you have logic so powerfully on your side, that once you get some voices and once you get some headlines and once you force somebody to take the microscope and kind of look through the lens a little bit clearer, you see where there is room for another heavyweight, or in this case two, to step in and steal the day. But as long as they all lay down, as long as they're all forced to the side, as long as they don't want to go out there and fight for something, it's not going to happen. You don't just fight the guy that you get called to fight. You have to fight concepts. You have to fight ideas. You have to fight for headlines. You have to fight for what is right. You have to fight for what is wrong. We have put everything on hold in the heavyweight class for a year now, for 1 year, to try to get a guy who's never done it, never been licensed, versus a guy who got carried out in his last one. Where are the heavyweights? Why are they not fighting? Why are they not standing up for themselves? That idea is such a good idea that we're going to sit and just let it get older and older and older, and it still remains the best idea in the room? From a logical standpoint, that has a very low probability.